A former girl that he was involved with is saying that he raped and assaulted her.
Zion Williamson built his career on power, dominance, and superstar potential. But now, shocking developments and a serious sentence have cast a dark shadow over his future. As the story unfolds, fans are left stunned, questioning if this marks the sudden and permanent end of his once promising career. The fall from grace. Zion Williamson was supposed to be untouchable, the #1 overall pick in the 2019 NBA draft, a physical specimen out of Duke University, a player so dominant, so explosive, so effortlessly gifted that scouts and analysts were already writing his name alongside LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal before he ever played a single professional minute. New Orleans did not just draft a basketball player, they drafted a franchise, a future, a reason to believe again. The hype was not manufactured, it was earned. In his one season at Duke, Williamson averaged 22.6 points and 8.9 rebounds per game while shooting 68% from the field. He was a 284-pound wrecking ball who moved with the quickness of a point guard. College basketball had not seen anything like him, neither had the NBA. And for a time, even through the early injuries, even through the missed games and the weight criticism and the whispers about his conditioning, the belief held. The Pelicans stood by him, the fans stood by him, the league stood by him, because when Zion was on the floor, he was something the NBA had not seen in a generation. But the floor gave out, not on a basketball court, off it. Zion Williamson entered the 2025-26 season at his lightest weight in years, reportedly around 264 pounds, after an intense offseason conditioning program. He had achieved a career-high 35-game consecutive streak mid-season. He was averaging 21.3 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 3.3 assists on 59.8% shooting. By every available measure, this was supposed to be his redemption season, the year he silenced every critic, the year the narrative finally flipped. Instead, the story that swallowed everything had been filed months earlier, quietly, in a courthouse in Los Angeles, and it was only a matter of time before it consumed him completely. On May 29, 2025, a woman identified only as Jane Doe filed a 12-page civil complaint in Los Angeles Superior Court against Zion Williamson. The lawsuit alleged a multi-year relationship that began in 2018 when both parties were freshmen at Duke University. It claimed the relationship continued until June 2023, spanning his entire early NBA career. And what Jane Doe alleged inside that relationship was not just damaging, it was catastrophic. The complaint described a pattern of sexual, physical, emotional, and financial abuse across multiple states: California, Louisiana, Texas, and possibly Oregon. 2 specific incidents of forced intimate contact were alleged, both occurring in September and October of 2020 at a Beverly Hills apartment Williamson was renting. In the first incident, she alleges she was targeted while sleeping. In the second, she describes a violent confrontation that began after she expressed a simple desire to visit a friend. The physical allegations did not stop there. The complaint also accused Williamson of strangulation on at least one occasion to the point of loss of consciousness, as well as hitting, kicking, threats of death against her and her family members, delivered through his own armed security detail. The lawsuit alleged false imprisonment, stalking, and the deliberate confiscation of her phone and laptop to prevent her from reporting the abuse or seeking medical assistance. Jane Doe's attorney, Rachel Lanier of the Lanier Law Firm, described the case as a serious example of coercive control, a man using wealth and fame to silence a victim for years. She praised her client's courage in coming forward after months of medical treatment and counseling. 9 causes of action, damages estimated between $18 million and $50 million. The sports world stopped.
Zion Williamson. You see the accusation that has been leveled against him. A former girl that he was involved with is saying that he raped and assaulted her.
That was the moment it became real for millions of fans. Not a tabloid rumor, not a social media post, a filed legal document, a courthouse, a public record. The response from Williamson's legal team was immediate and total. Attorneys from Barrasso, Ustin, Kupperman, Freeman, and Sarver issued a statement calling the claims categorically false and reckless. They described the relationship between the two parties as consensual and casual, stating it had ended years prior with 0 complaints raised at any point during or after. They went further, accusing Jane Doe of attempting to extract millions of dollars from Williamson before the lawsuit was ever filed, and claiming Williamson had already reported those extortion attempts to law enforcement, resulting in an arrest warrant being issued against her. The team announced plans to file counterclaims seeking significant damages for defamation, but Jane Doe's attorney was equally direct. Lanier stated publicly that the the case was well documented, that witnesses were prepared to testify, and that the plaintiff was eager for a jury trial. No one is above the law, Lanier said.
Listen, I don't know what the hell has happened. I don't know what's going on. I wasn't an eyewitness.
That uncertainty, raw and public, was rippling across the entire NBA media landscape. The court of public opinion had already begun its session, and it was not alone. That tension between presumption and proof, between accusation and verdict, sat at the center of everything that followed. The Pelicans organization, watching all of this unfold, had a decision to make. They chose loyalty. Pelicans owner Gail Benson publicly stood by Williamson in June 2025 interviews, noting that lawsuits are lawsuits and that anyone can file one for any reason. Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations Joe DeMars stated he had spoken to Williamson at length and that the star would continue to be a focal point and cornerstone of the franchise. The organization went ahead and fully guaranteed Williamson's 2025-26 contract, approximately $7.9 million tied to weight benchmarks he reportedly met. No freeze, no suspension, no distancing, business as usual. But the Jane Doe lawsuit was not where the off-court story started. It was where it peaked. The file had been building for years. In June 2023, when Williamson and his partner Akima Love announced they were expecting a child, adult film actress Mariah Mills went viral on social media, claiming a multi-year secret relationship with Williamson. She alleged payments exceeding $100,000 per month, posted what she described as private messages, and threatened to release recorded footage of intimate encounters. Her accounts were eventually suspended. No formal lawsuit was filed at the time, but in 2025, following the Jane Doe filing, Mills reportedly contacted high-profile attorney Tony Busby, known for representing accusers in celebrity misconduct cases, to explore her own potential legal action. Busby's firm declined to take the case. In January 2026, adult film performer Alyssa Alcantara, known online as DopaChick69, posted a viral social media video making paternity allegations against Williamson. She shared a screenshot of a $2,000 bank transfer labeled with a name she connected to him, posted photographs comparing her toddler to Williamson and another man, and demanded a formal DNA test. Williamson's representatives denied any involvement. No lawsuit was confirmed. No paternity proceeding was initiated. But the online reaction was swift and loud. Zion needs help. This is getting out of hand. He was supposed to be one of the faces of the league. The weight of the off-court story was becoming heavier than anything the injury reports had ever produced. And in April 2025, it escalated further still. Akima Love, the mother of Williamson's child, was arrested on charges related to home invasion, stalking, and assault against a woman romantically linked to Zion. Love was alleged to have physically attacked the woman and egged her home. She was ordered to surrender her firearm and stay away from the victim. Sources close to the Pelicans organization described the incident as the straw that broke the camel's back for team ownership, who were reportedly furious. Trade rumors accelerated overnight. Stephen A. Smith brought all of it to national television. The joke got a laugh. The crowd reacted, but underneath the laughter was something real, a growing exhaustion with the wasted potential, the endless distraction, the circus that had replaced what should have been one of the greatest careers in NBA history. The man who was supposed to be the face of the league had become a punchline on morning television. That was the state of Zion Williamson as part one of this story closes. The allegations filed, the denials issued, the team still publicly loyal, the pattern of personal chaos fully visible, the narrative beyond saving in the eyes of millions of fans. Now comes the part that explains how it got here. The history they didn't want you to see. To understand why the Zion Williamson story hit with the force it did, why the lawsuits and the accusations and the personal drama landed so hard, you have to understand what was riding on this man from the very beginning. Not just talent, expectation at a generational level. Williamson was selected number 1 overall by the New Orleans Pelicans in the 2019 NBA draft out of Duke University. He was 19 years old. He weighed nearly 285 pounds and moved with a quickness that had no business existing in a body that size. The comparisons to Charles Barkley, to young Shaquille O'Neal, to a LeBron James hybrid were not hyperbole. They were accurate observations from people who watch basketball for a living and had never seen this combination of size, explosiveness, and skill in one player. New Orleans was a franchise starved for relevance. Williamson was supposed to change everything. Then the injuries started, and they never really stopped. On October 13, 2019, during a preseason game, Williamson tore the lateral meniscus in his right knee. Surgery, rehab, 44 games missed in his rookie year before he finally debuted on January 22, 2020 against the San Antonio Spurs. He came out of the tunnel and dropped 22 points on perfect shooting. The crowd lost its mind. The league had seen enough to confirm what it already believed. In 24 games that rookie season, he averaged 22.5 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game while shooting at an elite clip, all rookie first team. Immediate impact despite missing more than half the season. The ceiling still looked infinite. The 2020-21 season brought a right thumb sprain in April 2021, then a fractured left ring finger in May, costing him the final 6 games. But before those injuries hit, his production had been extraordinary. 27.0 points, 7.2 rebounds, 3.7 assists per game on 61.1% shooting. First All-Star selection. He played 61 out of 72 games. The promise was being kept, barely, but kept. Then came the 2021 offseason, and the floor collapsed entirely. Williamson suffered a Jones fracture in his right foot, requiring surgery. He missed the entire 2021-22 season, all 82 games. He did not play a single competitive minute. For an entire calendar year, the player the Pelicans had constructed their entire franchise vision around did not exist on an NBA floor. What followed was brutal. Photos of Williamson at significantly elevated weight circulated online and spread to mainstream media. Body composition became a national talking point. Analysts questioned whether he was committed to his own career, whether the Pelicans had been deceived, whether a #1 pick could actually wash out before his 3rd professional season. In March 2026 interviews, Williamson described this period as the emotional low point of his life. There was a lot of criticism on my weight, my care for the game. I was really low because I just wanted to play basketball. He called some of his injuries a blessing in disguise for his personal development. He was emphatic that the accusation he didn't care was the one that cut deepest, that missing games was as painful for him as it was for anyone watching. He returned for the 2022-23 season and delivered glimpses of everything the hype had promised. On December 28, 2022, he dropped a career-high 43 points against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was scoring 26 points per game. The Pelicans were competitive. The narrative was healing. Then January 2nd, 2023, closing seconds of a game against the Philadelphia 76ers, a right hamstring strain. What was initially described as a few weeks off turned into the rest of the regular season and the entire play-in run. 29 games total before the shutdown. Gone again. The 2023-24 season was the breakthrough everyone had been waiting for. A career-high 70 games played, 22.9 points, 5.8 rebounds, 5.0 assists per game on 57% shooting. His playmaking had evolved. His court vision was sharper. Many viewed this as the fully realized version of Zion Williamson, the player the draft scouts had always described. It lasted 1 season. A left hamstring strain in the play-in tournament carried the damage directly into the following year. The 2024-25 season fell apart in pieces. A grade 1 left hamstring strain in November 2024. Reevaluations that extended his absence to 2 months. A lower back injury that ended his season entirely in late March 2025. 30 games played. Back on the shelf while the Pelicans sank in the standings. Through the first 6+ seasons of his career, Williamson appeared in approximately 269 regular season games out of a possible total exceeding 550, the equivalent of more than 3 full seasons missed. His per-game numbers remained elite, the games themselves were simply not there. Now add the legal and financial history on top of that injury record, and the picture becomes significantly darker. In July 2023, California-based tech company Anchor PBC filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court in New Orleans against Williamson, his mother, Sharonda Sampson, and his stepfather, Lee Anderson. The company alleged it provided a $2 million bridge loan in September 2021, intended for real estate investments in New Orleans, while Anchor pursued a marketing and endorsement deal with Williamson. A partial repayment of $500,000 was made in April 2023 under a forbearance agreement, but the remaining balance claimed was approximately $1.8 million. A separate $25,000 check had previously bounced. No public resolution, settlement, or dismissal was ever announced. The case disappeared from headlines without explanation. Before that came the Gina Ford lawsuit, a $100 million breach of contract dispute that started before Williamson ever played an NBA game. Florida-based marketing agent Gina Ford sued Williamson after he terminated their representation agreement, signed in April 2019 while he was still at Duke. Ford alleged improper termination and interference by CAA, who later represented Williamson. Williamson's legal team argued the contract was void from the start. Ford was not licensed as an athlete agent under North Carolina's Uniform Athlete Agents Act, and the agreement failed to meet state requirements for contracts with student athletes. In 2021, a federal district court in North Carolina granted summary judgment in Williamson's favor. In May 2024, the Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously upheld that ruling. Ford received nothing. Williamson won completely. But winning a lawsuit does not erase your name from the headline. And by 2025, Zion Williamson's name had been in enough headlines, lawsuits, paternity claims, domestic incidents, violent assault allegations, that the cumulative weight had become its own separate crisis. ESPN's Brian Windhorst and other prominent analysts began noting off-court activities as a growing concern that extended well beyond injury history. Analysts, including Kendrick Perkins and Austin Rivers, openly questioned whether the Pelicans should pursue a trade. Some in the league suggested the team might be better served rebuilding around rookie big man Derek Queen and accepting that the Williamson era was functionally over. The Pelicans held approximately $87 million in remaining contract obligations to Williamson over the next 2 years as of early 2026. That number does not move regardless of what a courthouse decides or what a social media post claims. The Pelicans kept saying the right things publicly. They called him the cornerstone. They reaffirmed their commitment. They pointed to his production numbers when healthy and insisted the plan had not changed. But there is a version of cornerstone that describes the future, and there is a version that describes something you are anchored to, whether you want to be or not. By the time part 2 of this story ends, the distinction had become impossible to ignore. The injuries, the contracts, the lawsuits won and lost and unresolved, the personal chaos compounding on top of all of it. The evidence, not of guilt, not of verdict, but of pattern, had been assembled piece by piece across 7 years of public record. What comes next is the reckoning. Sentenced. What comes next? There is a phrase that gets used in civil litigation: no criminal charges filed, and it is technically accurate. As of March 2026, Zion Williamson has never been arrested, indicted, or subjected to any criminal proceeding related to any of the allegations made against him. No court has convicted him. No judge has issued a criminal sentence of any kind. But sentences come in more than one form. There is the sentence handed down by a courtroom, and there is the sentence delivered by circumstance, by the slow accumulation of events, allegations, failed seasons, and public perception that begins to define a man regardless of what any judge decides. Zion Williamson, as of March 2026, is living through the second kind, and it is heavier than most people understand. The Jane Doe civil lawsuit remains active. No settlement, no dismissal, no trial date announced. No major court rulings reported publicly. The case is moving through the civil court system at the pace civil cases move, slowly, quietly, with the potential to resurface at any moment with concentrated and devastating force. What Jane Doe's attorney described as ample evidence and witnesses has not yet been tested before a jury. What Williamson's team described as an extortion campaign has not yet been proven either. The legal process has not concluded. And that means neither has the story. The Anchor PBC loan dispute, $1.8 million alleged unpaid, has no confirmed public resolution through early 2026. The Alyssa Alcantara paternity claims from January 2026 remain unresolved and unverified. Mariah Mills, who consulted attorney Tony Busby about potential legal action in 2025, saw the case declined. No lawsuit, no resolution, just noise that never fully fades. And on the basketball court, the place where all of this was always supposed to matter most, the 2025-26 season has been a portrait of what could have been and what still might be, depending on which week you check. Williamson entered 2025-26 at his lightest and most conditioned in years, arriving reportedly around 264 pounds after a rigorous off-season program. He described feeling better than he had since college. He backed it up with production. He achieved a career-long 35-game consecutive streak from mid-December onward. Through mid-March 2026, he had played 55 games while averaging 21.3 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 3.3 assists on 59.8% shooting. The efficiency has never been in question. The talent has never been in question. The flash of what this was supposed to be is still visible every single time he touches the ball, but the body kept interrupting. A grade 1 left hamstring strain in early November 2025 cost him 7 to 10 days. A grade 2 right hip adductor strain in December added at least 3 more weeks. An ankle roll in early March 2026 ended the consecutive game streak and raised fresh durability concerns. The pattern that has defined his career, elite performance punctured by recurring lower body soft tissue damage, has not been broken. It has only been temporarily interrupted. The team around him is not helping the larger picture. The Pelicans are struggling. The wins are not coming. The playoff picture is not bright. Rookie big man Derek Queen has emerged as a legitimate building block for whatever New Orleans becomes next, and his presence has quietly shifted the internal conversation about the franchise's direction. The financial reality is immovable. The Pelicans owe Williamson approximately $87 million over the next 2 years. Trading him with that contract and the surrounding narrative attached to his name is not simple. Waiving him would be financially catastrophic. So the organization is, in practical terms, locked in, publicly committed to a cornerstone player, while privately navigating the ever-growing weight of everything surrounding him. At first, it sounded like any ordinary highlight: a rising superstar, a former #1 pick, a name everyone in basketball knew. But over time, that same description started to feel different, heavier, because behind the highlights, a series of troubling stories began to surface. One woman came forward with allegations, then another, then more voices joined in, reports, disputes, personal issues, each one adding another layer to a story that was getting harder to ignore. Piece by piece, over the course of his career, the image of Zion Williamson began to change, until by 2026, the full picture had come into focus, and it wasn't the one fans thought they knew. That case is still active in a Los Angeles courthouse. When it resurfaces publicly, whenever that moment arrives, it will bring everything with it all at once. In March 2026 interviews, Williamson spoke openly about the cost of the past 7 years. He said the harshest criticism he ever received was not about his weight or his injuries. It was the claim that he did not care, that he was wasting his gift on purpose, that he chose comfort over greatness. He addressed it directly. There was a lot of criticism on my weight, my care for the game. I was really low because I just wanted to play basketball. He wants to play. He has always said he wants to play. Whether the body cooperates and whether the courts and the public allow the basketball to be the only story are questions that remain completely open. So what exactly is the sentence? It is not a prison term. There is no prison term. There has been no criminal conviction. There has been no plea deal. There has been no civil verdict. Williamson remains legally presumed innocent in every active matter before any court, but the sentence of public perception has already been delivered and recorded. The sentence of franchise uncertainty has already been issued. The sentence of lost legacy, of what this career was supposed to mean, of what a #1 pick who could play like a point guard and fight for position like a center was supposed to become for this league. That sentence has been accumulating since before the first lawsuit was ever filed. The Pelicans organization continues to call him the franchise cornerstone. They may mean every word of it. They may also have no viable alternative. With $87 million still owed and no clean exit available, cornerstone and locked in can look identical from the outside. What the next chapter holds for Zion Williamson is genuinely unknown. If the Jane Doe civil case reaches a jury, it will be one of the most publicized sports-adjacent legal proceedings in recent memory. The paternity claims may or may not escalate into formal proceedings. The injuries may or may not recur with the same frequency they have for 7 consecutive seasons. The Pelicans may or may not decide that the draft capital and salary relief of a trade, at whatever price the market offers, is preferable to the alternative. What is known is this: a player who was supposed to be the face of a franchise and a generation is instead the subject of a story that has almost nothing to do with basketball. And the distance between what Zion Williamson was supposed to be and what his name now represents in early 2026 is wide enough that it functions as its own verdict, whether or not any court has officially issued one. Some goodbyes are announced out loud, some are just quietly understood. Found this information exciting and unbelievable? Be sure to check out other similar and amazing videos on the screen. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.